Greetings, chess players or the chess puzzle solvers. Today, I will show you a very interesting idea about the chess puzzle, namely the retrograde chess puzzle. Before we start, let's check the ordinary chess puzzles, or we can say non-retrograde chess puzzles. What do ordinary chess puzzles look like? The first example is an ordinary mate in N puzzle. The position is given and you find the next move. The second example is also a mate in N puzzle. The position is given and you find the next move. The third example is an example of a find the best move puzzle. We don't know the exact goal. It could be a mate, it could be to avoid to lose, it could be winning a piece, for example. And all these examples are caring about the future moves. They don't care about how this position is reached. But if you are a delicate chess player, you may wonder if the given position is reachable. You already know that the chess positions are not generated by putting the pieces directly onto the board. Every chess position should be reached by two players playing the game, from the starting position, following the chess rules, and finally reaching the desired position. So in this perspective, we are now caring about if a given position is possible to reach or not. We call this reachability. And from now on, we assume that every chess position must be reachable. So this is the one example that is not possible to reach. The first, we see 8 white pawns, so we can say white have not promoted any pawns. And now we see the white bishop is hanging in f5, but considering the starting position of the bishop and these pawns are stationary, the bishop could not escape. So from now on, we'll consider how the position is reached. And these puzzles are called the retrograde chess puzzles. So this is one famous example of the retrograde chess puzzle. You can find this one in the Wikipedia. Black to move is obvious to mate in 1, just queen f4 and checkmate. But we are not interested in this future move this time. The question is, what was the white last move? You need to answer what piece moved from what square to what square and whether it captured anything or not. Obviously, white moved the king in this example because there's literally no other options, but from where? So now we are talking about the retrograde chess puzzle. If you want to find out by yourself, pause the video and solve it by yourself. So let's begin to solve the puzzle. Obviously, the king couldn't have moved from d4 or e4 or f4. That are two kings bonking their head. So we all know that's not possible in chess. So what if the king came from d5? It seems possible, but no. This is the position before the white move, so what was the black's last move? The rook and the queen are checking the white king. Black cannot make this check. If black moved the rook to check, then the king was already checked by the queen. And if black moved the queen to check, and then the king was already checked by the rook. So this position is not reachable. So d5 is not the answer. How about e6? Is this position reachable? No, it's also a double check and the black cannot make this happen. And how about f6? If this position reachable? It's also a double check and this is also not reachable. How about f5? It's also a double check. So it seems like the king came from nowhere. So we can conclude that the position given in these puzzles is not reachable. And therefore the puzzle itself is defective. Is that so? No, it's not. There's one brilliant move that can make this double check happen. Can you find what it is? The answer is en-passant. Black captured a white pawn with an en-passant. This is the only possible way for black to double check the white king. So it turns out the white last move is king f5 e5. But wait, that's not the entire answer. Actually, we have solved only half of the puzzle. Let's move on. So if black did en passant, then obviously the white last move was pawn g to g4, and this should be the position before the white's move. Then what was the black's last move? You can see that the black has checked the king with the last move. But the only possible square that bishop could came from is g4, which is also a checking position, and you can never take a turn when you have already checked the king. So there's one another possibility to check the king, which is the discovered attack. If any black piece was on g4, then the black can take it away to make a discovered attack. But once again, the only possible black piece that could be on g4 is the queen. However, obviously this is not possible because the queen is already checking the king. So once again, the position seems unreachable. Is the puzzle defective? Now, there's one another brilliant move that allows black to check the white king. Did you find it? The answer is a knight. What? The knight wasn't even on the board. Then you realize the white king was not stationary in this puzzle, and this position is not really hard to reach. So what actually happened in this puzzle is, starting from this position, black moves the knight to check, g4 to defend the king, en passant to double check, and then the king moves f5 to e5, taking the knight. So this is the answer, king f5 x e5. So I think you are now familiar with the idea behind the retrograde chess puzzles, the reachability. Let me elaborate. The first rule when solving the retrograde chess puzzles is the castling. Because you are unsure whether the king or the rook has moved or not, you just assume that they didn't move at all. So the castling is always possible unless you prove that one of them had to move to reach this position. In this example, you are allowed to castle by the rule 1, the castling rule, but of course this applies to both players, which means your opponent is also allowed to castle. So that was the first rule of the retrograde chess puzzle. The second rule is about en passant. Like castling, en passant requires the information about the very last move, which we don't know, so we just assume that en passant is impossible unless we can prove the last move was the pawn moving 2 squares. In this example, assuming it is white's turn, we might want to en passant to threat the checkmate. It looks possible, but we are unsure whether the black's last move was the pawn g7 g5 or not. So in this case, white is not allowed to en passant. So this is the end of the video. I hope that was interesting for you. In the next video, I will show more examples of the retrograde chess puzzles and talk about some interesting edge cases. There are a lot of things we can talk about this concept. And if you are interested about the retrograde chess puzzles, please check these books written by Raymond Smolia. Thank you for watching.